Good morning. Look, this morning I wanna talk to you about the new golden age we're in, the second golden age. Gilded age that we're in. Trump called it the golden age, so that's what I was thinking about. But and if you don't know what the gilded age is, I'll just give you a little background right quick. The gilded age was the age right before the Great Depression. It was the age where we had unfettered capitalism, where it was unchecked, and where, basically, billionaire worship was a new thing, right? Because billionaires were just starting to come about in that time. That's what brought about the Gilded Age, the creation of billionaires. John Rockefeller and Carnegie, Vanderbilt, things like that. So during this time period, there were no regulations, for the most part, on what these captains of industry could do. As a matter of fact, they were so bad that they were called robber barons, because of how they, basically slaved their people out, how they used child labor, how they used any method necessary to make the most money they could for themselves, and not reciprocated properly, especially to those who had worked to help with that, help with this amassing of wealth. So, or their amassing of wealth. So you had these captains of industry who basically made it to the top, created an entirely new, wealth class off the backs of people, underpaying people, doing people wrong, profit driven. Profit was the main goal. So the means justified the ends. The ends were profit. So whatever they had to do to make profit, it was justified. They were doing it. And it got so bad, to where it crashed everything out. And the reason it crashed everything out is because, during this time, there was just so much money banks had. And banks were just giving out loans to people, and people were defaulting on the loans. They weren't getting paid back on the loans. And so it had happened so much that, those big banks and those big, firms weren't able to recoup money back on all of those investments, and boom, the bottom fell out. All the companies lost money, went out of business, all type of shit. And that was directly because of the Gilded Age, directly because of unfettered capitalism, directly because of billionaire worship, and normal people who no longer have any iota of an understanding of what you're going through. Your interests are nowhere near their interest, because again, a billionaire's main interest is profit. And so all of that profit leading up to the first Great Depression, it was it was all basically just doing whatever I can do to get profit. And so all of the spending and all of the shit they did led to the Great Depression. And so after the Great Depression, you had, that's when you had FDR come in and save everything with the New Deal, right? And what the New Deal did, not only did it establish, Social Security, and all this other stuff for people, but it put a stranglehold on those companies to keep them from being profit-driven only and having some measure of balance when it comes to care and profit sharing, especially with those who, you know, help you get there, and of course for taxation. So the New Deal, you know, it created Glass-Steagall, which, you know, was repealed, which I'll talk about that in a minute. Glass-Steagall separated so banks. It was certain loans and certain, well, I believe it was stock companies. Yeah, I believe it was brokerages, or either banks, one or the other. There was a difference that one could not do the other. I'll get the, you know, the particulars of it, you know, later, but the meat of it is there was a separation between what banks can do and what brokerages can do. And there were certain things that, you know, each one of them could not do, and they kept them separate. And that prevented a lot of the corruption that was going on with the robber barons, you know, from a corporate level. All of the stealing and shit they was doing. So Glass-Steagall was just one of the restrictions that it put on so-called what we call the free market of capitalism, to keep it from being, you know, like I said, just out of control, because it was completely out of control. And there were a lot of other things that were instituted then, you know, to rein in corporations and keep them from being completely profiteering, right? And that worked. Everything that FDR did with the New Deal, it worked to save the country. And I've said before in one of my other videos that the boomer generation is a generation that really fucked America off completely, right? Because they came into power around the 70s and the 80s, right? And showed up throughout the 90s. They had all the 90s. So they're the ones responsible for all of the bullshit that we're experiencing now. The boomer generation, okay? 45 to 65. Those people, when they grew up, you know, they're responsible for every decision made, for the repealing of Glass-Steagall, for all of the like everything. So, you know, again, the New Deal worked. The New Deal worked. It was great. It kept corporations in check, and it also instituted a new field of disdain for billionaires, because they were the cause of the Great Depression. Billionaires, the same people who we worship now, who we think, you know, is going to save us, who we think has our interests at heart as middle class motherfuckers, you know, but they knew then that, hey, billionaires caused the first Great Depression. And so, again, I bring up the boomers because I've said in previous videos that the boomers fucked up everything. Sorry about that. The boomers fucked up everything we had. Got a well-oiled machine from the greatest generation. The best fucking America that ever had been. At that point when they started taking over, they were handed a well-oiled machine by the greatest generation. So the people who did do the New Deal, and the people who did put a stranglehold on the corporations. That's why they're called the greatest generation. Not just because they fought fucking 2 wars. Because they put a stranglehold on that bullshit when it comes to billionaire worship and unfair capitalism. So there was an entirely different sentiment when it came to billionaires, because people knew that the billionaires caused the Great Depression. So leading up, you know, to the 80s, when a lot of that was repealed with Reagan, you know, and this is where the bullshit come in. Because even though the New Deal did put a stranglehold on corporations and on, you know, all these billionaires who just want profit driven over everything, they really didn't give up. They didn't stop, right? They said, okay, y'all have locked us down, but we got something for y'all ass. they did it in a way of death by 1,000 cuts. It wasn't all at one time. So the first thing they did was they went to the media and they used propaganda. They would make movies and they would have commercials about how having so much wealth is great, and about how, you know, it's great to be this, it's great to be that, you know, wealth, 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 wealth. You know, that's what it's all about. So they pushed that for years and years and years, and then they got more politicians to come along and also push that same narrative over years and years and years and years. So if the New Deal happened in 45, I would say, or in the 40s sometime, I mean, no problem in the 30s. No, I think it happened right after the Depression. Yeah, so it probably happened like right around the 30s or whatever. I'll have to look it up and see. I think it was 33, if I'm not mistaken. But right after the New Deal, they instantly went to work putting out propaganda, putting out commercials, putting work into politicians. And you can see it from proof of it. Actual proof of it is the number of lobbyists that businesses had from the 1940s on up until the time Reagan got in. So if you go and look at that, go and research the amount of lobbyists that businesses had from after the New Deal, well, I just say the 40s, from the 40s on up until Reagan got elected. Businesses didn't have lobbyists. It's not something that they did because they were not involved with politics from a, you know, standpoint like that. So this was part of their propaganda. This was part of their plan to, again, reinstitute billionaire worship and to remove the New Deal. So to be honest with you, everything basically that conservatives have done or Republicans have done since 1945 or 1933, whenever the New Deal was instituted, was to repeal the New Deal. And like I said, it started with media and propaganda. And then, like I said, actual proof of this is the number of lobbyists that increased by the time Reagan got in office. By the time Reagan got in office, there were thousands, or at least hundreds of lobbyists for different businesses that had not been there 30, 40 years prior. Because that was not a method for businesses to, you know, they didn't need to do that at the time because they ran everything. There were no laws against them. So they did not need to have lobbyists lobbying politicians and political groups. But that was part of their plan to retake the power. So it went from in the 40s, in the 30s and the 40s to basically no lobbyists, no businesses had lobbyists, to now here we are in the 80s, and you have hundreds of businesses with lobbyists. That is direct proof that after the New Deal, after the robber barons were taken stranglehold of, this was their way to gain power over a period of time. You see it in the number of lobbyists that they started to put into Congress. So now they're controlling Congress by the time Reagan gets in. So when Reagan gets in, everybody think it's going to be oh so great, you know, because they came with that trickle down shit. And see, that was the last part of the plan. That was the last part of the plan to reinstitute the billionaire worship, was the trickle down method, right? That's how they tricked everybody. Oh, if we get these billionaires rich, then their money will trickle down to us. Come on, man. Come on now. But that's what they fed people. People really fell for that shit. You can go back and look for yourself. People fell for the trickle-down method in the 80s. They fell for it because they said, hey, we're going to get all these billionaires rich. Let's get wealth. Let's amass wealth. Let's get the billionaires rich. And when they get rich, their money's going to trickle down to you. This is what Reagan ran on. This was Reaganomics 101. And the reason, I mean, I really can't understand the mental gymnastics that people do to promote Reaganomics when it literally crashed our fucking country. It is the reason we are where we are economically now. It's because of Reaganomics. It's because that is when billionaire worship was reinstituted back into politics. Because by that time, they owned all the fucking politicians through lobbyists. So when Reagan came in, man, they cut By the time, from the time he got in to the time he got out, the taxes on corporations have been cut maybe over 50%. You can go look for yourself. But it was a drastic, from the time he got in, it was already being sliced down over the years through different regulations here and there. But when Reagan got in, man, that's when they unleashed the fucking river. They were just inching in throughout the years with little things here, bringing the corporate price down, bringing it down, because their propaganda was working. And their propaganda is a motherfucker, man. Like, the propaganda was working, and the people were voting for politicians who were fitting the propaganda, right? So by the time Reagan came in, they said, man, let's get these billionaires rich, and then y'all gonna get their money. It's gonna trickle down to you. Trickle down my ass. The only thing trickle down was piss. They pissed on you and told you it was raining. So they were able to cut all of that corporate regulation because they got it into people's mind that, oh, it's government regulation that prevents wealth, when it's really not. And they still use that same trick today. That's all they talk about. It's how government regulation prevents wealth, when really it doesn't. It just keeps it in check and keeps it from being so disparaging. You know, the ratio from a CEO to the lowest employee, you know, by the time Reagan got out, or at least while he was in, was like 30-1. Well, yeah, I think when he got in. By the time he got in, it was like 30-1. The CEO, the lowest employee ratio. By the time he got out, and a few years later, by the time Bush got in, it was fucking 160-1. So they told you, and they fell for that shit, man. Imagine that. Imagine somebody telling you right now, hey, continue to make this motherfucker over here rich, and then he gonna make you rich. It's gonna trickle down to you. No, did not happen. 42 faked everybody in America with that shit, and they went for it, you know. So billionaire worship was reinstituted then. And everything that happened during Reagan's administration, every law he put in, every restriction he took off of banks and brokerages, it led to the housing crash. Go and look for yourself. Every law, because they took that shit and they abused it. Because that's what billionaires do. That's what millionaires and billionaires do. They do not give a fuck about you. Go and look for yourself. Reagan made all the laws. Go and look at every law in Reaganomics. And come back and tell me, you know, and you come back and tell me. The fucking Reaganomics, the fucking shit he did caused the housing crash because they abused that shit with the fucking CDOs. And they were paying for ratings for batches of fucking C plus, C minus CDOs and getting them rated A just because they could pay for it. When you give these people the leeway, they don't just take the leeway you give them, they go even further. They were already given the power to create CDOs. So in creating them, they took it and still perverted it even further to go and pay people to give them ratings so they could fuck people off, cause the whole housing crash. So no. The whole conservative ploy has been to repeal the New Deal, which put restrictions on unfettered capitalism, because being a profit-driven country has gotten us to where we are, because now we don't even receive the quality of the product in which we're paying for. So fuck all the other shit you're talking about. We're not receiving the quality for the products that we pay for. A bag of chips now is less than what it used to be, and it costs more. Like, and what common sense ass country does that happen? Where I'm paying more and getting less. How? I'll tell you how. Because of billionaire worship. Because that's the type of shit that people fell for. They fell for the trickle down economics. And it did not trickle down. And the housing crash happened. But leading back to the point of my video, we're back at the same point again, that we're in the second Gilded Age, where man, I can only imagine what the CEO to you know, lowest employee ratio is now. I don't even want to look it up. You tell me, you know. But we are back in the Gilded Age again, believe it or not. And like, you know, come on, man. It would make sense that we hit another depression in 29. 29 is on the way. It's 5 years away. Like, come on. You know, I'll call it now. because we were right there again. We're also at the damn housing crash again. We have the same parameters set in place with the housing crash. The main parameters that caused that was you had too many defaulted loans. Banks and loan companies had given out too many loans. Too many people had defaulted. The motherfuckers got loans with no job and no income. Boomers, Gen Xers, and early millennials like me. We actually missed out on it. But like you had to be an early millennial, like 79, 80 or some shit to catch it. But they had loans. They were giving out all type of loans with no job, no income. And there was so much debt that they could not recoup on because the value of the property or the value of the capital in which they loaned the money on, it was too low. So, man, when I say, and we are right back at the same, we're at the same precipice again. They got rid of CDOs in 2008 and renamed them something else. So now they're doing CDOs under another name. And so now we're back at the same point again where due to inflation, we had people buying houses at 400% the actual, asking price. So we're at the same situation again, not only as the Great Depression, but we're also at the same situation again as the fucking housing crash. Because again, you have all these people who bought all of these houses during inflation. Now, all of these houses, they will never, ever get their money back. If you bought a house from 21 to even now, they're still like overpriced. So you will never get your money back. Never. Because you will never get back the money that you pay in mortgage when you include the interest. And then not only when you include the interest, when you include all the shit you put into the house while you stay there. You'll never make all your money back. So all of that is because of unfettered fucking capitalism. That's the interest scam. Y'all sit here and fight for billionaires to get richer and richer when it's not benefiting at all. Look at how insurance companies treat your ass. And that's everybody, whether you're left or the right, whether you're conservative or Democrat. Insurance companies treat all you motherfuckers the same. All y'all get treated the same by the insurance company. The interest that they hit you with, all of y'all get treated the same. Especially, the damn people who are at the bottom. So the bottom of the white race, the bottom of the black race, y'all want billionaires to be your politicians? That's how fucked up it is now, is that we want billionaires to be our politicians. Like, no, you don't get any benefit from that. Look at how the insurance company treats you. That's because of your politician. They don't give a fuck about you. They allow the insurance company to treat you because the insurance company pays their campaign fund. Look at how the insurance company treats you. Showing up people at the bottom. We pay the most interest. The people with bad credit. So all my black people, all my white people with bad credit, all my conservatives with bad credit. I know some of y'all don't, but some of y'all, a lot of y'all do. Everybody goes through that, especially all my poor conservatives. Living in the trailer parks, living across the track, living right over there with us. Y'all pay a lot of interest every time you go in and get something when your credit bad. And you okay with that? You okay with them stealing that money from you? That's because you worship billionaires and you think it's okay for them to charge you 100% interest just because your credit is bad. You even allow them to say that you have a fucking credit system. They are billionaires. Americans think that we're, what's the phrase? All Americans think they're just embarrassed millionaires. And that's the fucking truth. Because we only vote for things that benefit them. And you can't tell me different. Unless you can tell me that your insurance company treats you good, that your insurance company don't make you jump through hoops. You say it was a scam. You say it was a scam. Insurance is a scam that they allowed to do to us. How the fuck I'm gonna pay you all this money all this time For you to put me through the ring or even deny me, or not only that, do me like you did them folks in California. Look how you did them folks in California. Republicans, conservatives. That companies can, that we should pay companies, and that they should put us through the ringer to get money that we paid for. The hell kind of country is that? That's not right. If I'm paying you for a service, shit, I need it. We live in a country where our politicians allow people to charge us 100% interest, and we already poor. Like, but the more money you have, the less interest you pay. How backwards is that? Where's the common sense in that? Tell me where the common sense is in that. There's not. That's not. That's all billionaire worship. That you believe it's okay to apply more interest to people with less money and less interest to people with more money. It doesn't make common sense. And if it doesn't make common sense, then, come on. Because you can't outsmart common sense. So the billionaire worship has to stop. But that's what we've gotten to now. Like, and it's really too late. We've allowed, it's not too late because, other people have been millionaires. Like, all the presidents we've had are millionaires and billionaires. So, but that's just what we have to stop. That's why we constantly get in the, that's why we keep going. That's why we keep getting worse. It keeps getting worse because we have these type of people. Just because people are billionaires does not mean that they know what to do all the time, especially when it comes to politics. And that's what we have to get away from. We have to get to the point. People always say there are only two choices. No, it's not, man. We have to get away from the point of thinking that it takes being a celebrity, because that's basically all they are. It does not take you don't have to be a celebrity to run the government. Like, a common person can be the president. Because all it takes, again, the president has no power. They do nothing. They're just representative. Like all the EOs that Trump are writing, they can get thrown out and he has no power to stop it at all. So presidents have no real power. They just do a lot of posturing. They do a lot of, this and that. So all the real power lies with Congress. And you don't have to be a celebrity or a billionaire or a millionaire to make political decisions. That's not a requirement. So until we get away from the billionaire worship, again, look at how your insurance company treats you. The way you're treated by your insurance company is an indicator of what kind of country you're in. Because, again, the insurance company who's denying you, who's picking up and leaving you, they are funding the same people who so-called represent you. They're funding their campaigns. So who do you think that politician is going to listen to? You, who's giving him $100, or the motherfucker giving him 15 million, or whatever State Farm dropping off? State Farm left California, and they left everybody. They left Democrats and Republicans. So why didn't you, conservatives, why didn't your politicians protect you from that? We want so much free enterprise that companies can just take people's money and run? People who have paid them that's how much free market we want? We want the free market to be their way, to where we can pay and pay and pay and not get product? Are we that profit driven? No. No. But we, I'm just saying, this is the second gilded age. Billionaires have unfettered access. Now they have complete access. They've always had access, but now sure enough, they have complete access to everything. And billionaires are profit driven. So the infatuation that you all have with billionaires and thinking that they can make the best decisions for you, when if you actually look at it, they have made no decision that have affected you in a great way. Everything has gotten worse. Prices continue to rise. It doesn't affect them. They have the money for it. They can do that. But, all right, guys, that's it for now. I'm going to check back in with y'all later on today. We're going to continue this. All right, see you.